What if I told you that one man, fueled by revenge and ambition, could drag nearly the entire world into the deadliest war in human history? A war fought across 6 continents, involving more than 100 million soldiers, leaving entire cities in ruins and claiming over 70 million lives. It was a conflict that transformed the United States into a global superpower, accelerated technological innovation, and forever changed the course of human civilization. But World War II didn't begin with bombs falling from the sky or tanks rolling across Europe. Its roots stretched back decades to a fragile peace, a broken economy, and a series of decisions that allowed one of history's most dangerous dictators to rise unchecked. To understand how the world descended into such unimaginable destruction, we must first return to the aftermath of World War I. When the First World War ended in 1918, Europe was devastated. Millions of soldiers had been killed, economies were shattered, and entire communities struggled to recover. Hoping to prevent another global conflict, the victorious Allied powers signed the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Instead of creating lasting peace, however, the treaty imposed severe punishments on Germany. The country was forced to accept responsibility for the war, surrender territory, reduce its military, and pay enormous financial reparations. Many Germans believed the treaty was unfair and humiliating, creating deep resentment that would shape the country's future for decades. Germany's situation became even worse. During the 1920s and early 1930s, hyperinflation destroyed savings, unemployment reached record levels, and businesses collapsed. During the Great Depression, millions of Germans struggled to find work or feed their families. Faith in democratic institutions began to disappear as desperate citizens searched for someone who promised hope, stability, and national pride. It was during this period of crisis that a former soldier named Adolf Hitler emerged as one of Germany's most influential political figures. Hitler joined a small political organization called the National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazi Party. An exceptional public speaker, he blamed Germany's problems on the Treaty of Versailles, weak political leaders, and groups he falsely accused of undermining the nation. His speeches promised economic recovery, military strength, and the restoration of Germany's former greatness. These promises attracted millions of supporters who believed he could rescue the country from humiliation and economic collapse. In 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Within months, he dismantled democratic institutions, silenced political opponents, censored the press, and established a dictatorship. The Nazi government gained complete control over nearly every aspect of German life through propaganda, surveillance, and intimidation. Schools, newspapers, radio broadcasts, and public events were used to spread Nazi ideology and encourage loyalty to Hitler. At the same time, the regime began persecuting Jewish people and other minority groups, laying the foundation for one of history's greatest atrocities, the Holocaust. As Hitler strengthened his control at home, he also began expanding Germany's power abroad. In 1936, German troops entered the Rhineland, violating the Treaty of Versailles. 2 years later, Germany annexed Austria in an event known as the Anschluss. Soon afterward, Hitler demanded control of the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia with a large ethnic German population. European leaders, hoping to avoid another devastating war, agreed to his demands through the Munich Agreement of 1938. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain famously declared that the agreement had secured peace for our time. Instead, it only convinced Hitler that Britain and France were unwilling to stop his expansion. In March 1939, Germany occupied the rest of Czechoslovakia, proving that Hitler's ambitions extended far beyond protecting German-speaking populations. Even then, many hoped diplomacy could still prevent another war. But Hitler had already set his sights on Poland. On September 1st, 1939, German forces invaded Poland using a new military strategy known as Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. Combining fast-moving tanks, aircraft, and infantry, German troops overwhelmed Polish defenses with astonishing speed. The invasion shocked the world and demonstrated a new, highly effective form of modern warfare. 2 days later, On September 3rd, 1939, Britain and France declared war on Germany. Their declarations transformed a regional invasion into a global conflict that would soon involve dozens of nations across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. The Second World War had begun, and within just a few years, it would reshape international politics, redefine America's role in the world, and change the course of human history forever. As World War II began, Germany introduced a revolutionary military strategy that stunned the world. Known as Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, it combined fast-moving tanks, aircraft, artillery, and infantry into a single, coordinated assault. Instead of fighting slow defensive battles like those of World War I, German forces struck with incredible speed, breaking enemy lines before defenders had time to organize. Within weeks, Poland was defeated. The success of Blitzkrieg shocked military leaders around the world and demonstrated that warfare had entered a new era. After securing Poland, Hitler turned his attention west. In the spring of 1940, Germany invaded Denmark and Norway, before launching a massive offensive against Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. The Allies expected Germany to attack through central Belgium as it had during World War I, but instead, German armored divisions pushed through the dense Ardennes forest, a route many believed was impossible for a large army. The surprise attack caught Allied commanders completely off guard. German forces rapidly surrounded British and French troops, forcing one of the largest military evacuations in history at Dunkirk. More than 330,000 Allied soldiers escaped across the English Channel, preserving experienced troops that would later return to fight another day. Despite the successful evacuation, France could not stop Germany's advance. On June 14, 1940, German troops marched into Paris without facing major resistance. Just days later, France officially surrendered. In only 6 weeks, one of Europe's strongest military powers had fallen. Hitler now controlled most of Western Europe and appeared nearly unstoppable. Across the Atlantic, many Americans watched these events with growing concern, wondering whether the conflict would eventually reach the United States. With France defeated, Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany. Hitler believed Britain would soon surrender, but first he needed control of the skies. During the summer of 1940, Germany launched the Battle of Britain, the first major military campaign fought almost entirely in the air. Thousands of German bombers and fighter aircraft attacked British airfields, radar stations, factories, and eventually major cities, hoping to destroy the Royal Air Force and force Britain into submission. However, British pilots, supported by advanced radar technology and determined civilians, successfully defended their homeland. Prime Minister Winston Churchill inspired the nation with speeches that encouraged resilience during months of relentless bombing. Britain's victory marked Hitler's first major defeat and proved that Nazi Germany could be resisted. Unable to conquer Britain, Hitler made another bold decision. On June 22, 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest land invasion in history, sending more than 3 million soldiers into the Soviet Union. Hitler believed the Soviet Union would collapse within a few months, but he underestimated both the determination of Soviet resistance and the brutal Russian winter. As German supply lines stretched farther east, freezing temperatures, fierce fighting, and massive casualties gradually slowed the advance. Instead of achieving a quick victory, Germany found itself trapped in a costly war on two fronts. While Europe was engulfed in conflict, another powerful nation was rapidly expanding across Asia. Japan sought to build an empire by capturing territories rich in oil, rubber, and other valuable resources. Japanese forces invaded large parts of China and Southeast Asia, bringing them into direct conflict with American interests in the Pacific. In response, the United States imposed economic sanctions and restricted exports of critical materials, including oil. Japanese leaders believed these actions threatened their survival and concluded that war with the United States had become increasingly likely. On the morning of December 7, 1941, that conflict arrived without warning. Hundreds of Japanese aircraft launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Battleships were sunk, Aircraft were destroyed on the ground, and more than 2,400 Americans lost their lives in just a few hours. The attack shocked the nation. For years, many Americans had hoped to remain out of another European war, but Pearl Harbor changed everything overnight. The following day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed Congress, calling December 7th a date which will live in infamy. Congress overwhelmingly declared war on Japan. Within days, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States, and America responded by declaring war on both nations. The conflict that had begun in Europe was now truly a global war. America's enormous industrial strength, military power, and determination would soon become decisive factors in shaping the outcome of World War II.